All right, so just reviewing the higher time frame again, down to some lower time frames and looking at key levels and what price has done so far, and then a few indicators to just kind of give some confluence in what's going on. So we got basically a week left for this monthly candle, and that week is a holiday week, so I'm not expecting major price action. We'll look at it on the weekly. Um, I'm kind of expecting maybe like a small bodied green candle, maybe an up close to where it's just kind of consolidating, closes green for further movement down. And December month, we do have all these lows right here still kind of hanging out. And again, we still haven't gotten to the EMAs on the monthly. So we're still hovering just above that. April was the last time that the monthly pretty much dipped into here, and then we just had a nice steady 7 months after that manipulation of green candles where not one of these lows had been ran. And so that's what we have been talking about over the past 2.5 weeks or so about getting some movement downward and running some of this liquidity and just getting a healthy pullback to the monthly EMAs. Um, so just when you go back and kind of just look at how the monthly charts played out in time, um, you can see like here's probably the closest as far as movement up, and that basically that was after the COVID dip. Okay, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles, and after the fifth, we finally got a monthly low ran, and then we just got more continuation up until we got I guess this was considered a bear market from the end of 2021 to where it bottomed out at the end of 2022. So kind of a year where we just kind of um, high resistance lower and then started that move back up. So looking at, these past monthly charts, anytime we start getting about, 5 candles, really, we usually get some sort of retracement to run some of these lows, which is healthy. Um, and so that's what I was talking about I always start my analysis off with the monthly to just see where are we at and what is the possibility. And so we looked at that, and that's why I was talking about having this kind of retracement to at least run this previous monthly low, which we did. I do see these are pretty tight together, so I would like for these to be ran, and that basically puts us back into a monthly fair value gap. Um, this is a quarterly order block. Okay, if we look at the year, we have our yearly open. All right, and so I'll just mark that off. And we manipulated down, heavy manipulation April, and this quarter gave us basically a change in the state of delivery, or just showed us that we were not going to get into a deeper retracement as this quarter closed above this quarter's leg, right? And then we have the next quarter run up, and now we have this quarter where we put in a high, and this quarter is starting to retrace. So possible to get back to yearly open, um, as this would be like a quarterly order block, and then that puts us at you have your 8 to 21 EMAs, and then you got your like 28 to 35 EMA ribbon. So kind of a decent healthy pullback possibility, and we might not get that. We might get just some previous highs tested in this, or we might just keep pushing up for now. Um, that is this is what I'm watching though. So on the lower time frames, we'll just keep looking at um, key levels, and I'll go back and review those for those of you that haven't seen them. Um, and we'll just look at how price reacted around those key levels. Okay, so moving on down to the weekly. Um, yeah, exactly. So far, we got a bearish engulfing on the monthly. Um, so looking at the weekly and where we're at, we had nice reaction off the fast EMA, the 813. And then we got this week where we had a nice down close and we're closing below that. Um, we have this volume imbalance right here where we have filled one side with a down close candle. Eventually, this will need an up close candle body to balance that out. But we did get a lot of overlap with these wicks on the weekly. Um, what that kind of tells me is that this could be saved for later. So that could coincide with that monthly fair value gap that's down here, and here's all these monthly lows. And that would be a decent push to the 48 EMA on the weekly. We do have price cooling off a little bit on the squeeze indicator. Okay, where it came from the lows and it's ramped up. And then even though it's pushed higher, we've seen this kind of decline. And it's starting to show not a not a real tight squeeze, but it's giving us a black dot, which is like a mild squeeze indicator. And I'll talk about that a little more on the other time frames. So in regards to the weekly, looking at next week because it's a holiday week, again, we have this void right here, right? A new week opening gap. So price gapped up, and really we've only closed half of it, just about, and it's only a down close candle. So I could see maybe a gap down, a manipulation, and maybe a green closed week right here as a possibility. Um, and that would kind of rebalance this area for the time being. And also this prominent low where price had rejected off of so many times, or the new week opening gap, it wouldn't be that bad of an idea to see a small bodied up close candle in here. One, to fill in part of this, but also as like a inline order block, right? So you have down close, down close, down close, small up close, continuation lower. No, we'll have to have you come on, Cozy, and give us your quadrant magic. So that's where I'm kind of looking at for the weekly. Again, I'm not going to rule out that just because November was a down close candle, that we don't get a December up close candle and this still gets left for later. Um, the old saying that the market can remain irrational longer than people can stay solvent, there's a reason why there's that quote. And that's because when you think that you know exactly what the market's going to do, it could do something completely irrational that makes you scratch your head just to throw as many people off as it possibly can. All right. So that's where I'm at with the weekly. Here's that yearly open. It's a previous high. Um, it'd be nice to possibly get down here, get some discount on like blue chip stocks before really powering higher. Do we get that? That's to be determined. All right, dropping down to the daily. So just like I posted in my channel, um, daily is now closing below the EMAs. We're starting to get the EMAs to flip, and we just got a signal for bearish EMAs with this indicator. Yes, it is a lagging indicator, as a lot of these are. Okay, our squeeze indicator was showing that we were getting a squeeze forming and it's fired to the downside. So we've had two green dots where this is now fired to the downside, and we should get, a couple more out of this, as this wasn't a super tight squeeze. Whereas we can see with the red dots, we had a nice compression right here, consolidation, and then the squeeze fires up, and we get um, a nice reaction out of there. As the EMAs are flipped, if we're going to see continued movement downward, then we're going to have to start seeing candles hold these new EMAs where it can wick above, but bodies start to hold the bearish EMAs to the downside. Okay, so I do use a lot of like multiple things to give confluence on ideas because I want to have a good set of what's probable based off of multiple things, what price is showing me. Pretty balanced, I would say, on the way down so far as just price action and the candle bodies. We had this gap here. Price spent a little bit of time right there. And so we got a lot of this filled in. Multiple, couple fair value gap taps right here. Um, for those that haven't seen like my daily time theory stuff, this is a pretty nice example for a big day. But here we have Thursday candle in purple that sets the fair value gap where we've seen price reject to before. We get a big manipulation up on this Thursday candle where NFP data was released. IO feds this fair value gap. And then we get this push down all the way back over to here and basically runs this Thursday low. Okay, kind of matches up with this previous high. So we have some Thursday levels that all line up right in here. 50% of this wick, a high and a low, and Thursday delivers there, and we all saw that massive day. Um, if we're going to get a green weekly candle, and with this downtrend, we get kind of some just consolidation within the holiday week, I would like to see uh, Monday, Tuesday lower, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday kind of hang back out around here, EMAs to catch up, and some buy side liquidity to be ran. Yes, so this is the indicator I created as an easy way to identify when levels are targeting previous levels of the same day, which is something that I had looked into and studied for a while, and came up with a theory and then came up with an indicator to help visualize and see it and mark those things out. All right. Moving on down to the 4 hour. Okay. So if we kind of look at this big section of price action, we can see that here's the daily consolidation, the move up, and then we started getting failures to recover the highs, and then we started having some key levels that were holding price below it. I'll after I go through this, we'll you guys can hop on and ask questions and stuff. So just looking at price action, okay, and looking at how candles react to key levels. Typically mark out these gaps. These are voids, okay, new week opening gaps, however you want to label that for yourself. But what's most important is that opening price. And so when we go back and we look at the 4-hour and we look at this week opening price, we can see that once we closed below it, every time we came above weekly opening price, we pushed back below. And there was a failure to close above any leg of price or a range that pushed back above the weekly opening price. And so that's where we want to be able to look at price action and identify what is that telling us. And so if we create ranges that close back above the weekly opening price, we can still get price movement below it, but eventually we want to start seeing price close above those ranges, which means that when price goes below here, it's building longs. And when we look at this little cycle of price right here, we can see that we get some pretty good reactions off of that. So when we're looking at this, one, we're looking at what objective has been met, and after we made this movement down, we just rebalanced this area. And we didn't get a move back to 50% or OTE and then started closing above those price legs. Okay. So when the market rebalances itself, you're going to get either one of two things. If it's balancing and then it's a retracement to continue higher, then you're going to get some sort of OTE respect, and there should be a PD array that will show you that reaction, right? So if we use this as this was a previous day that was ran, and we want to see price respect order flow for higher pricing, then maybe after a rebalance of this leg, this would be like an order block, and we get a rebalance because we have a small volume imbalance here, and we would push for higher prices, but we didn't get that. So that was your first clue with kind of continued lower prices. We can fib these for expected moves. All right. So above weekly opening price, we get a previous day ran. This is Thursday. Here's a Monday, so we get 2 days where the highs were ran. We get OTE retracement, and then we get the subsequent 4.5 standard deviation off of that. That started the next move down. NVIDIA and NFP shenanigans. Okay, and some of you guys might remember that I typed in the chat, what if this NVIDIA pump was a juke? Well, we got the NFP sell-off. It happened not at the release, but at that 10 a.m. candle. Okay, so that's just going to happen. You're going to get times where they're not going to make it easy to, they're going to try to keep you off sides as much as they can. All right. But that was that Thursday fair value gap on the Thursday and then the push lower. So, but as you can see, we're pretty much holding EMAs, some deep retracements, um, in some areas where like it kind of starts to curl back, but then it never does, and we get the push down. Looking at the current range that we're in, okay, I'm gonna measure this high to this low. We have not retraced back to 50% or zero point 0.5 our fib. It's possible that we get some sort of movement lower, back higher up into OTE, and kind of consolidate in here in this area, as this is a major price leg. If December um, is going to be a bullish month, which it definitely has that potential, here's all our monthly lows right down here. So it kind of matches up for, here's your NFP price leg. And even if we get just one standard deviation off of that, that pretty much runs a lot of those monthly lows. Okay, so I'm going to be referencing this piece of price action with the fib and these levels because it's a red folder event, and that should give me the tools and information based off of how candles close on the 4-hour to identify what's going on. So that would be a nice December manipulation lower. So open, low, and then if we get a nice pump, close above that monthly, and that was just a monthly retracement with a December manipulation running 3 more monthly lows. Actually, I think it might be 4 more. I have to look again, but at least 3 more monthly lows and then push higher. And that could coincide with potential rate cuts, earnings that come up. I always see some of those the earnings. And let's see, when do we get all the earnings after Christmas? Is that like January, February? Okay. Everyone kind of follow along so far with like price action levels, whatnot. Same thing with this week opening price. Basically, it's the top of this green box, and we can see what price has done. It tapped it one time and rejected, and came up and almost tapped it again. But again, weekly opening price, once it closes below it, showing a lot of weakness to push back above it. Then I had, where's the month open? I think it was this right here. Yeah, October. I think this shows as the month open on the monthly. Yeah, because, yep, that week started off in September. So this was the monthly open. If we're going to continue lower, then I'd like this level to hold price below it for lower prices. Which indicator are you talking about? Invader. Michelle, I have the same indicator on the 4-hour chart. And the 4-hour does very similar things as well, where you'll get candles will pair up and use prior same time frame candles to reference like pivot points, basically, uh, or targets. So that's I originally started off with the 4-hour time theory, and then I bumped it up, and I actually looked at multiple time frames, but I found it most useful on the 4-hour and the daily to use those levels. So I know there's some other people out there that talk about like 90-minute and hourly, kind of doing similar stuff. It's a lot of the hourly and the 90-minute becomes a lot of candles to sift through. So the 4-hour is pretty um, can be easy to spot at times, and the daily is large enough that it's you can mark those levels. And I've posted charts where you see price on the 1 minute or 5 minute like bounce around all those previous same day levels and just kind of move throughout the day up and down between them. Okay. Any questions? Cozy, did you want to come up before the questions and give us the yearly range quadrants? Or you want me to throw a chart on and mark it up? Awesome. Let's see. Yeah. Is this okay? NQ, and it's the contract. Yeah, I think I posted 2 monthly charts with two measurements. I did one with the this full range, and yeah, that 50% comes back down into that quarterly order block. Let's change this to 50% level. Boom. Yeah, so you're going to be watching reactions for manipulation below and then starting to close above the this first quarter, right? Yeah, and if not, then yeah, 100%. I also measured this range right here because this is the monthly chart, so this is a prominent low on a weekly or daily. And the reason for that is this is the section of price that if you use this as like, here's your manipulation leg, here is the price leg that closes above that. And measuring that, really OTE falls right between these two. And that falls right in line with previous monthly highs and that fair value gap right there. So yeah, and it all, to me, it all like whatever, it all balances out. Sometimes sometimes I've seen it where when you measure this full leg and then it doesn't hit 50%, it comes down here and then it rejects. And you're like, man, how come it didn't get to at least, 50% of this price leg? Well, then when you measure the actual leg that closes, runs out of this manipulation leg, and this is the range, then you look at it and you're like, oh, that was an OTE entry on that leg. No wonder it didn't come all the way down to here. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like if you just measured the bodies, right? There's that perspective too, which again, everything kind of like falls right in this like this area right here. So I like these monthly lows getting ran for a bullish December. Yeah, and I like how that quadrant lines up too. I think that's going to be a key level as well. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult on the on some lower time frame, like sub daily time frame, but that could be, this might fall in line with another key level on the lower time frame that we could use just to see how price reacts around it, kind of like the weekly open and the 4 hour. Let's see what this, okay, we got it on hours. So if we go to 4 hour, where does that fall in line with? Yeah, so it's basically falls right in line with that new week opening gap. So anything above that, and that was a big gap. It's a 293 point gap. We could definitely see price kind of hang out in this area before making the move to those monthly lows. Kind of like how price did up here with this gap, and we had on the daily, where it revisited this quite often just to fill in that void. Yeah, always start your analysis from higher time frame lower. That's that's one of the things that I've always done. So it's always helped me um, kind of determine the direction of where I should be trading. And it's not to say that you can't trade retracements. It's not to say that you can't trade this move up and this move down if you're, you know, or when we're bullish, it's not to say that you can't trade this retracement move. Um, but just when order flow is moving in a certain direction and you do trade retracements, keep in mind that you don't know how far it's going to retrace. So maybe tighten up your take profits on what would be a retracement move versus what is order flow showing me. So for any shorts, I might just do like a very small target and then look for longs out of that. right? And vice versa when we have price that's moving lower. So when we start showing downtrend, these are great moves, retracement moves. However, if you're longing in here and you're longing and you're longing and you're longing, well, you're trading against order flow. So that's all. That's the only thing to be careful. But yeah, do your top down analysis, and it's easy to just walk through like how I just walked through. Okay, where are we at on the monthly? Usually the monthly is not like you don't need to spend a lot of time on it. Then it's where are we at on the weekly? Have any weekly highs, lows been rated? Where's the previous weekly opening price so I can mark that out? Like mark out these key levels on the higher time frame and then just drop down to the next time frame. Okay, daily. How did the daily respect um so I don't need to like look at the monthly every day. Um the weekly, I'm going to have my targets, but this is what I do every weekend. And it prepares me for the week. And then I try to look at the news events. I try to take everything into a big picture and say, what would be most likely to happen? And then I want to look for trades in the direction of what is most likely to happen. Because typically, when you enter those trades, they're going to immediately go in your favor. So, and then 4 hour structure for me is important because it's just below daily, and you can really see how like the 4 hour is real reactive on multiple legs at key levels. Fifteen-minute chart. Just the way the structure set up on the 15-minute. Yeah, there's a lot of so that's a okay. Uh, that actually brings up a good point, Cozy. All the relative equal highs. Okay, if you've watched um, price action enough, when price is headed in a direction, they love putting that in. Why? Because again, that's another area of price that you're like, oh, this is like looks too easy. Like price should run this. Yeah, exactly. And then it never gets ran. So you're over here and you haven't done a nice thorough top-down analysis, and you're over here like longing, like here's my target, it's got to get there. Okay, let me long here. Oh, it ran these. Let me long, thinking that this is going to get ran, and it's like no, this isn't going to get ran. This is for way later. Again, you can see how they just keep setting all these equal highs, and price never runs them. It's how you used to trade, swag. New swags in the house. All right. What else? What other questions are there? I'm gonna look at one more thing real quick. Let's go back to the weekly. And just gonna see where we're at for ATR levels. Day, weekly, monthly. So if we look at the month, okay, I'm already on that. And it's probably more appropriate to look on the daily just to see how candles reacted. Okay. Here's the monthly ATR levels. We still have one more week left. And you can see that we've talked about this. This is based off of Fibonacci and your average true range of how big a range price is going to give you daily. And so this is how big a range that the monthly is going to give you based off of all the historical data. And this is your mean. This is like your starting point where the previous week closed. Okay. And the possibilities of where can the month expand to. And so this is your bullish indicator. This is your bearish indicator. Here's a -1 ATR move. Okay, 24,265 right there. And we almost get to the next fib level of the ATRs. Don't quite reach that. But anytime we get to if you're using any of these like ATR level indicators, anytime we get to a 1 ATR move, either up or down, you're usually going to see some sort of reversal around that area. And that just works on each ATR like level. So like daily, you'll see that on lower time frame. And then weekly, this is the monthly. And so we've gotten down to this -1 ATR, price drives through it, and then we close back above it. All right, so we might consolidate just again this area right here for this next week, holiday week. This is another really good indicator just for, here's your multi-day. So here's for the week. Okay, so now we're looking at last week. Opens, manipulates up to the bullish, and completely rejects it. Close below the bearish for the week, manipulates to the bearish, closes below. We hit this ATR level that's almost at -1. Okay, and we get a nice reaction off of it. This one almost touches that, then comes all the way back up to the bearish indicator. We're closing right at it. Here's that manipulation up into the fair value gap, Thursday. And then we get for the weekly, we get a -1 almost to here. And then Friday pushes to that. Look at that, taps that, the second ATR level under the -1 move. Okay, and then again, even on the weekly, closes above the -1 ATR level and actually comes all the way back up to this one. And so these can also be used as pivot points. So we're pretty extended down here. And Friday was building long positions in this lower area. You can start looking for longs as we're pretty extended. It's very rare that we get like a full -2, as -1 is even a pretty big expansion. I mean, look at this week right here. We don't get a plus one, and we don't even come close to a negative one. Maybe this is semi, but pretty much stayed just above the bullish ATR level. Let me get rid of this so it's easier to see. But you can see how these levels are being respected. 1, 2, 3 levels above. And I forget the extensions, but it's, let's see, if I do this way, well, I need my other fib, projection fib. This way. I want to say if you basically span the, I have to look into that again. Or is it this? Might be this. Yeah, there we go. Those start lining up. It's like something you can put your fib on these, and that's how these levels pop up. Then if we go down to daily, so if we do go to like a 15-minute chart, and again, I use this just for like confluence on what's most likely to happen. So we were down in that weekly -1, okay, which is a pretty good extension for the week. Look at how price reacted around the bearish daily put trigger for the ATR levels. Consolidates in between the open and the bullish, drives down to the bearish, big reaction off of that, almost pushes all the way back up, almost taps it, wicks it with higher lows, candle bodies, and then we get a push up almost a +1 ATR. And then what happens right here? We get a reversal. So again, for these dailies, Thursday was probably one of the biggest daily ATR level days we've had. That was a big, big candle. And you can see how price played out for Thursday. Just hovering and consolidating all above the bullish trigger. Comes up, gets to this ATR level, which this is hiding. I can get rid of this for now. And then we get a massive push, -1 and almost -2. Pretty dang close. Okay, but as you can see, price starts driving through these levels, and we're expecting the lower prices. You can target these levels. Again, just another indicator for confluence. What is price doing around it? How far extended are we? And there's other people that use this. C Easy uses this, and he can attest to taking trades off the levels and what it's showing, what price is showing around it. And that's from our friend Sadie, who created this along with his EMA ribbon. All right, let me see. Do we have any questions in the chat that we need answered? Yeah, so if you're going to, again, you should always be practicing this. And the more you have screen time, the more you're going to get better at reading price action, which ultimately should be the goal. You should be getting enough screen time to where you can look at price action and you should understand what it is telling you. And there's a lot of good videos out there. I think TT Trades probably has some of the best like volumes of videos on reading price action and what the candles tell you. And that's from, hours and hours of screen time. No, holiday week. Holiday week, so I'm expecting consolidation. If we get something different, then I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I'm kind of expecting price to just hover in this area. I talked about on the weekly, and it was recorded. I would like to see a small bodied kind of doji candle, but a green close on that week, and then continued lower prices starting December. But yeah, practicing reading price action and what it's telling you and measuring ranges. Another big thing is to understand like what's going on with the range. Right? Because as price moves, it's going to show you what is happening with the range. All right, so this big candle right here, this FOMC, what was this? This is something. Okay, that basically set a range, this 4-hour candle. You can throw a box on this, you can throw a fib on it. But as we look at this range, just this single candle alone, we run the high and we're failing to close above that high. It's wicked. And now we have candles that are now closing below this candle, and it ends up targeting the low of this range. Okay. Once the bottom of this range is ran, okay, we get some pretty deep runs. What this next range does is going to tell me what is going to happen. Because if we're going to have continued bullish prices and we're looking at the immediate price action, then really we should see like this leg of price. This is a pretty deep retracement. So if price is still very bullish, after we get this deep retracement, we should see a push higher. Okay, and we don't. And we look at the candle bodies and we're respecting this range that was put in for this high. We're respecting all the OTE entries. Anything above 50% and we get the OTE entry. And look at the reactions off of it. Drives up, okay, wicks up, and then big push down. Get a push up, even bigger push down. Now we're closing below this low. Okay, fair enough. Maybe we're just doing a rebalance and push higher. So then how are we viewing price action is what highs have been ran, what lows have been ran, and what has been balanced. Because the price is always, the market's always aiming to hunt liquidity or rebalance itself. So this is rebalanced along the way. After this push down, if this area of price is, let's say we just take this leg and now we've balanced it, well, then we should see a push back up if it's going to deliver higher prices. It would do that. Even through here, we come all the way back down to this leg. It's been balanced. This whole leg of price has now balanced this move up. So again, yeah, we're coming up and rebalancing this and this void. Higher prices once this is balanced, or there should be an OTE entry here and then a push higher. It's giving you failure swings every time. And we can identify that by this whole area of price up here to begin with. Just like massive move down, but what was this area showing us? Yes, it was consolidation, but every time we got into the void, the new week opening gap, we pushed out of it pretty strongly. We run a low. I mean, we're not even getting candle bodies in here. Push out, okay? If we were to see lower prices, what would we want to see? The rebalance of this leg, push lower to the next imbalance. But what does it do? OTE entry and continue higher. And this can be broken down even to these smaller segments, okay? That was the low that was put in at OTE. Here's a high right here. What does this do? Hits discount and pushes higher out of that little cycle of price or small range within this bigger section, the fractal portions. And then based off of that, okay, the push out of this range, the return to this range, and now we get the false high, OTE entry, push higher, boom, 4. So when you understand ranges, you start fibbing the right areas to get the destination. Just like we fibbed this one. Okay, just like here's a sequence of fibs for price. Initial range. Where does that take us to? 4. Rebalances up. Back into that. Okay, this is the rebalance and liquidity run. OTE entry. 4, 4.5. Okay, to the money. This objective was met. This was the new leg to fib, the new range to fib as it finished off balancing and running liquidity. And we get our targets. And we get appropriate reactions along the way because price is not just going to move in one direction the whole time. 2.5. Push back up. Look at the bodies hold this. So if I just left this fib on and I'm trading and I'm looking at the 4-hour chart and I see on the lower time frame how price keeps rejecting and I look on the 4-hour, man, candle bodies can't even close back up into here. I'm going to go ahead and look for shorts right here as price is showing me that it's bearish. Okay, gets down to 3. Candle bodies can't close below. Back up to the same exact level. Candle bodies can't close above. The push down to 4 and 4.5. Big news day. NFP. Okay, then almost back up to the 2.5. So when you're fibbing the right ranges because you're understanding what the ranges that are being put in is telling you, it gives you really great levels to play off of. And so those probabilities become exponentially in your favor. And then it's just a matter of fine-tuning entries on the lower time frame. This one just gapped this level, but you can see how price still is using levels on the fib because all this stuff it's all just mathematics, so it's all going to blend together. And we just had a nice push up, not really bouncing around the levels, but kind of once it closes above, it's looking for the next one. Kind of comes back to midway between. I bet you if you measured this, the candle buys would probably be at like 50%. So a little 50% move and then pushes above the next one. Previous high, starts pushing. Does that, you guys kind of, does that make sense as far as looking at ranges and like how we're identifying what is this range telling us? I truly believe that these markets are moved off of mathematical algorithms. And so that's why, like, if you understand like what a range is telling you, it's all going to be, it's just a mathematical range that's put in, and then it all, that's why you have so many different things where like you could have 10 different people with 10 different ideas and all the levels line up in the exact same places. So, yep, exactly. Fractalized math. So stuff for you guys to play around with, back test, look at really steady ranges, price action around it, um, and whatever you feel comfortable with using. I like to use a few different things to confirm ideas and to confirm if price is holding certain levels. Um, you think this week's gonna be wild? Ramped up volatility? Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure. I definitely think it could be. Where's that? What was the was it CPI where it just had the massive move up and then it just like super high resistance price action, and it was like just terrible to trade after after the data was released basically. Yeah. I'm curious if part of the week is going to get that same kind of high resistance but like on like a 15-minute to an hourly time frame. Yeah, exactly. Chop the whole day after. That was brutal. Any more questions? Yeah, me too, Prince. I think Amnaj was saying he's going to be jumping in to the chat a little more and his mentorship a little more. Um, I think that's going to be really, really good. Yeah, I know. Me too. I'm pretty stoked for that. Yeah, there's everyone has like life and it gets busy. Um, but yeah, he should be adding more because he's been talking about that. And I think it's going to be great. It's going to be really, really, really good. So whenever you see him show up in chat, really pay attention to what he's talking about. Him, JD, and LMT just have a really like they're just so dialed in on like how to maximize your trading journey and like the things you need to do to just always have statistics and probabilities in your favor. All right, well if that's it, then we'll let you guys get to it and hope everyone has a great Sunday and we'll see what the market open brings us later on in the afternoon. Yeah, no problem. This was recorded, so I'll upload it to my YouTube channel now, and I will post it in my channel if you missed any part of it and you wanted to go back and look through. All right, we'll catch you guys later. You guys have a good rest of your Sunday. Thanks for hanging out.